every wealthy person in this country, every wealthy family in this country has gotten their wealth off exploitation and thievery. Hey everybody, it's me, Mina. Welcome to Mina's Mortuary, where I talk all things horror. And today, now that it's had some time to breathe, because I really feel like y'all was not letting this movie breathe, but now that it's had some time to breathe, I would like to talk about Sinners. Don't get to talk about black horror as much, just because I don't have all the streaming sites. Some movies are just not as accessible to me as others. I am aware that there is some stuff out there like the Them show and Lovecraft Country and things like that. And when I get those, whatever subscriptions that is, I'll do it. But I want to talk about Sinners. Don't you see me doing something? I want to talk about Sinners. And one of the things that I love history and I love horror. My degree is in history. I particularly studied things like racial violence, racial philosophy, and slavery, not just in America, but also in Europe, Africa, and Asia. So anything that is going to blend history and horror is going to be right up my alley. Mind you, I had no idea what Sinners was about. I literally had to go and watch it so quickly because of the fact that I was getting all types of memes and spoilers all over my timeline. And I was like, let me go watch this before somebody... Sadie. Say hello, Sadie. Before it gets completely spoiled for me, because that has happened before with certain movies. And it ruined the experience because it was spoiled all over my timeline. And by the time I saw it, I knew exactly what was going to happen. I knew exactly what the big twist was. And it just didn't hit the way it did. So I had to go see it as soon as possible, and so that I can come back and talk about it. But yes, so it takes place in 1930s Mississippi. The main character, the one who everybody's talking about, is Michael B. Jordan. He is playing two twins. He's playing himself twice. And he has two twins that are from Mississippi. They went out to Chicago, and then they are returning to Mississippi to start up their own business. And things go awry. Now, before this became a horror film, the first part of the movie, before any horror even happens, this is a race film. This is not necessarily a slavery film, but it's more of a Jim Crow film. So obviously slavery's illegal, quote unquote, at this time. But you know, they still got chain gangs. They still have people being incarcerated, forced to work for little to no money, or if any money at all. But it's not a slavery film because they're not slaves, but they are Jim Crow South. So people are still doing sharecropping. They're still picking cotton. All of that is still going on. These two brothers, Smoke and Stack, twin brothers, went out to Chicago several years ago. Everybody has this idea, oh, up north, right? There's no racism up there. There's no Jim Crow up there. It must be so nice, so freeing to be up north, which is, of course, the great lie that is told even up till today, which is funny. Even when I was in school, I was lied to by my white teacher in my history class about how the North just wasn't racist and that was just like a Southern thing. And growing up in the South too, like that stuff gets ingrained in your brain. I like the inclusion of that. And I like the inclusion of Smoke telling their cousin Sammy when they came back to Mississippi that Chicago's just as bad. It's just as racist. Everywhere you go, that racism is there. You cannot escape it by going to another location. I mean, I know that we hear a lot of stories about people escaping to the North so that they can escape slavery. Then white folks was still turning y'all around and handing y'all back to the slave catchers. There is no such thing as the North not being racist. If anything, some of the most aggressive racist people I've met have been from the northern part of the United States. You know, the southern racists are more like, you know, covert. They don't want to seem like they're that type of person, so they're very nice to you while talking shit about you behind your back. I get more aggressive racism from people from the North. The other things that I thought that was really interesting that I liked that were included was the Chinese couple in Mississippi. Chinese people and Black people have a very long, like, connected history in the southern United States. And I really appreciated the inclusion of their family, because we are taught history in the United States as if everything happened in a little pocket. Like this all happened in Mississippi, then this all happened in New Orleans, then this all happened in New York. Like it was all different things. A lot of this stuff happened simultaneously. So the immigration of Chinese people into America happens around the same time. And so them blending in and having these Chinese people who are not white, you know, the definition of white does not include them, but they're also not black. So it's not always a black versus white thing the way that we are taught from history. There's all these other races here. The Choctaw make an appearance as well, because there was a lot of history of how the Native Americans, who were not all just wiped out and disappeared, they were very much here, and they had their own stories, their own history, their own relations with white people, with black people, especially in the South at that time. And I just loved having them included, even if the Choctaw's appearance was very brief. I still liked having them included because it's a reminder of there's so many things happening at the same time. There's so many other races. Everything is not just black and white, literally. Another part of it was the reliance on religion. One of the very few places where black people could come together and form community was in the church. So you have this extremely religious group of people, and this is common all over the South, where because that was the only place that they could safely gather, people would be very religious, and Christianity would be interwoven into their lives. So having an inclusion of a character, let me get her name, Smoke's wife Annie, who is a spiritual person, she's not practicing Christianity. She's doing her little spells, her rituals. From a video I saw, they said that this was hoodoo. I don't know anything about hoodoo, but if this was hoodoo, that was great. But having it appear in a way that is not in any type of opposition to Christianity, having someone who is connected to their roots and their spirituality, and they're not being presented as evil, because the southern black people have a really hard time with anyone who is not Christian and immediately seeing them as demonic. So having the inclusion of that character as well, where she had I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was a little pouch that she put around Smoke's neck that he took with him when he went to Chicago and came back. And she said that she believed that that is what protected him and his brother, because they was up there doing a lot of fuck shit and a lot of dangerous things. And Smoke kind of questions it because they had an infant daughter who died, and her magic did not protect their infant daughter. But it doesn't delegitimize her knowledge, her practice, or anything like that. He's really just speaking from a place of hurt that they lost their baby. So I think that is really interesting to incorporate that, where you have Sammy's father, who is a preacher, and he is very anti-music, anti-blues. This is all the devil. You have to give up everything and just, you know, be one with God and Jesus Christ and all of those things. And then have another character who is also present in his story, who does not subscribe to any of that and has her own practices that are rooted in, you know, Black tradition, African tradition, and it's not demonized in any way. They just exist because they're all different parts of Black culture that can exist at the same time, and you don't have to choose a side. Another thing that I liked in this story from a historical perspective was the sharecroppers, and the fact that the Black people who were working on these plantations, even though they're not slaves anymore, the only places that will hire a lot of them are these plantations, so that they are still picking cotton even though they're not slaves anymore, and they're doing it for pennies on the dime. They're not being paid well, and a lot of places they're not even being paid US money. They're being paid in these like plantation coins, which is basically like, you know, monopoly money. Like, you know, you go to work and you're working all day and you're sweating, it's back breaking, your whole family's been out here bruising your fingers and feet doing all of this manual labor, and then at the end of the day they hand you monopoly money that is really only good when you play the monopoly game and not if you want to go anywhere else. And it's just another way of showing that they were able to keep people in this cycle of poverty by not offering them opportunities to do work where they would make real money, and then making them work for fake money that they can only really spend within the ecosystem of that plantation. So when Smoke and Stack, when they go to the child's shop where there are white people and black people shopping there, the first question they ask when they're asking them for supplies for this juke joint that Smoke and Stack want to set up is, do you have money? And do you have real money? You know? And they are able to present this money, which automatically like throws up red flags. Like, where'd you get all this real money? Because in this area, most black people barely have anything that they can't steal. And another thing that I'm going to talk about before I get into the horror element is capitalism, because we can't escape it. We cannot escape the discussion about capitalism. It's not. When we're talking about what it takes to be successful in this country, in the United States, what it has always taken for people to be successful is exploitation and theft. That is what it takes to be successful. No one becomes wealthy by simply selling their time for money. No one becomes wealthy by simply creating a project like an artist would and then selling that for money. Every wealthy person in this country, every wealthy family in this country has gotten their wealth off exploitation and thievery. When Smoke and Stack purchased a sawmill from this landowner named Hogwood, which I thought was hilarious that his name was Hogwood, and they already know that he's racist. They already know that he's in the Klan, despite him saying the Klan doesn't exist anymore. But they have to purchase it from him because these Klan members own everything. They own land. They own buildings. How did they afford that? Well, they didn't just buy it. They either stole it off whoever originally owned it. They made enslaved people build it. Go back even further, the land itself was stolen from Native Americans. So how the white people in this story and in this country have made their money is by stealing land, stealing people, and forcing enslaved people to build them houses, churches, schools, all types of buildings for free. So it was 100% profit for centuries. That man did not come into possession of a sawmill because of his hard work. He doesn't look like the type of guy who knows what hard work is. That's why his name is Hogwood. That's why he resembles a pig. That's why he is sluggish and slow and spitting everywhere. He's not somebody who looked like he would have built that sawmill with his bare hands. A lot of people at that time, a lot of black people and a lot of Native American people, they had to build their own homes. And they could build their own homes because as slaves, they had to build other people's homes. So they are the ones who you can tell have been building their own shelter, like from the ground up. When you look at where Annie lives or where her little shop is, you can tell that is a structure that is built by hand by the people in that community. The same thing with the church. You can tell that that was built by them. But what the white people own was not built by them. It was built by other people for free. So when you have Smoke and Stack who want to have some sort of success as black people in a society that does not want them to have success, in a society that does not want them to make money, they had to acquire wealth by stealing it. Just like how the white people had become successful in the country, they had to go and they had to rob Irish people, Italian people, gangs. They stole money, they stole guns, they stole Irish beer. They did all of that, and then they escaped back down to Mississippi, where that money would take them further, where they would also be protected a little bit from the consequences of their actions. Because, I mean, you don't just steal stuff and expect people to not come after you, especially when it was gang members that you were robbing. But them coming in with all that money, everybody has an understanding that that was not hard-earned money. They didn't go to Chicago and work in a factory for 6, 7, 8, 9 years and then come back with a whole bunch of money. Like, they went up there, stole as much as they could, and then came back down to Mississippi to fulfill their dream of opening a black-owned business for the people, by the people. Which takes me into another thing that I really like that was touched on is what it means to have a black-owned business in a capitalistic society that is built on thievery and exploitation. That is how you survive. So when black people are trying to survive and they are trying to get their piece of the capitalism pie, it does not work for them. Even in today, it does not work for them. Because every black owned business that I know, where it fails is that black owned businesses have this unspoken expectation, sometimes directly spoken, that their purpose is to take care of the community. But the problem with that is a business is about exploitation. It is not about caring for people. The only thing that will care for the community are things like community centers, libraries, places that are free to attend. There is no prosperity in creating a business because now you have to profit off of black people who already don't have that much to begin with. Now, if this was Atlanta in the 2020s, if this was any of those areas where there's a large population of affluent, wealthy black people, you can have a different conversation about what it means to have a black owned business. But a lot of black owned businesses that are open, at least from my experience in the southern United States, all fall victim to the exact same thing, which is people don't like that your prices are so high. You know, they expect you to lower your prices to be able so that they can be able to afford your products. But if you lower your prices, you can't be profitable. And when black people try to emulate white businesses, what they always miss is the fact that white businesses are successful because they exploit people, because they overcharge, because they're constantly saying, "Ooh, inflation, eggs are $10 now. Oh, inflation, everything's gone up. The price will never go down again, but it can always go up." You know, and people will just keep coming to us because they have no choice. People don't go to them because they like being exploited. They go because that's all they have and they hate it. But then when they see something that is by black people for black people, there's this expectation that, you know, you're going to be affordable so that we can come and support you. We don't have a bunch of money to throw into overpriced food. But that's not how you're profitable. And that's why so many black owned businesses end up failing, or they will keep the prices affordable, but they will decrease the quality in order to make up the difference. And then people won't go there anymore because they'll think that the quality isn't as good. So what I think is really interesting in this movie is that they purchased the sawmill. They have to purchase it from a white man. So you already know that Hogwood is charging them way more than he would charge a white person for this sawmill. They pay it with barely any argument. And this white man is selling it to them with the understanding in his mind that they will come back later after collecting their money and kill them and then sell the sawmill to the next person. Again, they're making their money off of exploitation and thievery. There's no honest money here. So when Smoke and Stack open this place, they have this idea, they have this vision. They get their cousin Sammy, who is into the guitar and he can sing. They also get Delta Slim, who is a pianist. They offer to pay him, I think originally they said $20, but then they said $40 and all the Irish beer he can drink if he performs at their opening night. I'm sure they plan to pay Sammy. They get the Childs. They pay them up front so that they can do the sign and that they can provide the goods. They bring in Annie. They pay her so that she can make catfish. They have this whole vision that they are going to make this place a place that is for black people and that it is going to be profitable, and then it can be their own thing, and then they will be building generational wealth. But that's not what happens. It's their first night, and immediately you notice that people are starting to pay not with US dollars, but with that plantation money that means nothing to Smoke and Stack. It is worthless. And there is an argument of, do we want black joy? Do we want this to be a place of black joy, of black community? Or do we want this to be a business? Because you can't have both. Because businesses are about profit and exploitation. And you are either going to have a place where black people come to be amongst each other, to sing and dance and have joy and be happy, or you are going to have a business where you have to exploit that same group of people in order for you to make a profit. That is what it means when you try to achieve success by capitalism. There is no liberation for any group of people in capitalism. Someone always has to be exploited. So just like that, halfway through the night, they're already in the red because of the fact that so many people were paying with plantation money and not US dollars. And if they don't allow people to pay with plantation money, people won't be able to afford their beers and their food. So then they will leave and they won't have any clientele. So by the time that the white people show up, and I'm gonna get to the horror stuff in a second, but by the time that the white people show up and they're saying, hey, we have money, we want to come into your establishment, you know, there's a real struggle there of, well, if they come in, then we get white people money, which is going to be US dollars that can help us be profitable. But if we allow them in, then this is no longer a place that is by the people for the people, because the white people will ruin it. And just like what happened post segregation in so many businesses, is two things happen post segregation. One is that black people flocked to white owned businesses because there was this idea in their head that somehow it was better quality, and they finally have access to it now that there's no more segregation. Even though them going to those places meant that those white people were upcharging them, they were spitting in their food, they were giving them the worst of whatever service they were offering. But then the other part of it was that the black owned businesses, if white people would go in there and those places would no longer be a safe haven for other black people, you either are going to be slightly profitable for a short period of time because white people are coming in and buying your things, but then eventually those white people will stop coming in because white people don't believe that black products are good quality. If anything, they would see you have something cool and they will steal it, and then they will go and sell it as their own thing, and then everybody will go to them because they'll think that it's better because a white person made it. You know, gentrification, basically, for those who already know what that term is. So, and I'm not somebody who's saying segregation was great for black people. I am not that person, trust me. But I understand where some people are coming from when they say that a lot of black owned businesses dissolved because when black people no longer had to go there, that was their clientele. White people very seldom go to black businesses or even Latino businesses because they think the quality is better. They go because that's the only place to get that. Once other white businesses start stealing that, when the white restaurants start selling catfish, when the white restaurants start making barbecue, when the white restaurants start, selling whatever product they stole off of the black people, they will then go to the white restaurant. They will go to the white people. It wrecks that. And so there's a real dilemma here that ultimately Smoke and Stack are Smoke especially, is like, no, we don't want white people in here no matter what. We don't care what money they have. We don't want them in our space. It will suck the energy and the joy out of this place. We want this to be for black people. Talk about Mary. And I'm so mad that I can't remember the name of this movie because I remember it being very heart-wrenching when I watched it so many years ago when I was young. But Mary is 1/4 black. Her mom's dad was black, and she was raised by a black woman, grew up with black people. Her mom took Smoke and Stack in, so they're really adoptive siblings, which makes it a little gross that Mary's in love with him, but raised them everything. So she grew up around black people. Everybody in this Mississippi town knows that she is black. The 1-drop rule is in effect, but she can pass for white. And that's why she goes to Arkansas and marries a white man, because she could pass for white. There was a movie, and I can't remember the name. It was an old school movie about a girl whose mom was black and her dad was white, and she passed for white. So her mom sent her to a white school where she would get the best education, because that's what that means at this time. White means better. She gets the best education. She's treated very normally. She has a boyfriend. Everything's going well until one day her mom shows up and reveals to everybody that she is black. Not mixed. That's not a thing at this time. She's black. And once everyone realizes she's black, even though she doesn't look black, they all start treating her horribly. They spit on her. They assault her. She really comes to resent her mother because her mother is the reason why people are treating her so poorly. And Man, it was such a good movie. I remember crying watching it. But that's what I immediately thought of when I saw Mary, when I heard her talking. Everyone in this area knows that she's black. So the white people in the Mississippi area, they don't see her as a white person because they know that her mom is black. That's why she had to go to Arkansas where people didn't know her like that. So all of the black people accept her coming into the juke joint because they know that she's black. They even refer to her as Mary. Annie even refers to her as family, even though she looks every part of a white woman. So when these chalk demons show up and they're trying to explain to them that no, you can't come in, this place is for black people, they look at Mary and be like, why is she there? Because you can't tell just from looking, because race is a social construct that we all made up to justify the enslavement and treatment of certain groups of people. What I think about Mary in particular is she does the right thing in wanting to use her white privilege to go outside and talk to those I keep wanting to call them chalk demons, but they're chalk demons. To go outside and talk to the white people to see if they actually have the money that could help save the juke joint, because the juke joint's underwater right now and it's the first night. And so she goes out there knowing that they will treat her better because they see her as a white woman. So she risks herself, she risks her safety to go out there. Now, what she seems to forget is things can turn on a dime once they realize you have a drop of black blood. I'm surprised she would forget this. She seems to have no black intuition at all. Despite being raised by a black woman, despite being raised around black people, it's like all of that goes out the way and her inner white woman just takes over. And she's like, this group of white people who some people may know they're with the Klan, others may not. The mask is kind of hard, but they show up at night at the first sign of black joy. There's this beautiful moment in the movie where they're all playing the music, everyone's dancing. You see all of these different representations of various times throughout history, whether it was African or Chinese, and like all of that just meshing together. You even see some of the future stuff. They introduce like music from the future, people dancing, people in 90s clothes, all of that. There's a beautiful moment, just outpouring of joy. And then all of a sudden, with all this black joy, some white people just show up and they're like, let us in. We want some of that black joy. Y'all make good music in there. We want some of that. And the black people, of course, are immediately suspicious. Everybody, blocking the door, making sure they can't rush their way in, looking around. Do you have people with you? Like, what's going on? And Mary gets her dumb ass out there to go talk to them. Like, I get that she wants to make Stack happy, but there's no black intuition for you, ma'am. Nothing. You just walked out there at night by yourself, no protection, Cornbread wasn't even watching you from the door because they went a ways away, and you sit down and talk to them to suss them out and see if they're good people or not. You're in the Mississippi Delta. They ain't good people. There is very seldom a good white person. And when I say a good white person at this time, I'm meaning someone who is not racist. Very, very hard to find one of those. I don't even know if Mary's mom's mom wasn't racist. Like, from what Mary said about her mom's dad being black, like they had to save her from the Klan. She would have died if she was not whisked away and protected long enough to have her daughter. So it's just like, I feel like there should be more alarm bells going off, but I guess she just was like, I have white passing privilege. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to use my privilege. And look where that got her. And I think that it is very interesting how and I'm going to switch over to the horror part now. Okay. Because the horror part of this is that these people are vampires. Remmick, he is an Irish vampire that was originally being hunted by the Choctaw in the daylight, where he didn't have, as much power, and he was burning in the sun, but he used his white privilege to run up to this house of these Klan members, knowing they would immediately protect him, no questions asked, from the Choctaw, because they don't like Injuns, as they call them. And I think that's funny that their undoing was the fact that they blindly trusted this random white man just because of the fact that he was being chased by some Indians. But then I thought about it too, and I was like, if I was in this time period and a black man showed up on my doorstep and he was being hunted by white people, I'd let him in too. I ain't gonna hold you. That would be my undoing, because my first thought would be like, I need to help this black person out. So their white solidarity, which is rational, but also I feel like if it was a black man at my door and I let him in, but then a Native American came to my door and they were like, you need to listen to me, I need to tell you about this person, I would be listening, because I don't know, maybe it's just me. I would feel like this Native American person knows what they're talking about. But their racism made it so they did not want to hear anything that those Native American people had to say to them. They just pointed their guns and they ran them off. And I think it's also interesting too, because Remmick is an Irish vampire, and there's a whole history there about how, I don't know exactly when Irish people would have been considered white, but I do remember that not soon after slavery was ended, like 1860s or whatever, Irish people were still not fully considered white. Like they were not the ones who were benefiting from slavery like those Klans members or people who were former Confederates. But there was post-slavery this idea that they had to include more pale-skinned people so that the group of whiteness could be bigger and more powerful than the group of black people. So they did expand the definition of white in order to make sure that they kept their numbers, basically. So I thought that it was really interesting that, without a second thought, not even wanting to hear what the Choctaw had to say, took this man into the house, left him alone to do whatever. And then he attacks the husband, and then he attacks the wife. And now the three of them are vampires. And he's walking around playing a banjo or something, playing Irish music. So Mary's out there. She realizes they're kind of creepy, and she tells them to get on. And then they attack her, they bite her, and then she becomes a vampire as well. And she goes back inside the establishment to then attack Stack and infect him as well and turn him into a vampire. But I thought that it was really, really interesting because, vampires aside, it also gave me the feeling of those situations where a white person may feel like they want to do what's right. They want to stand up to the oppressive government. They see that black people are not bad people. They want to have community with them, and they want to use their privilege to help. But the second that they become in danger as well, because they are also in danger for associating with black people, for trying to help protect black people, a lot of them will change their minds and say, nah, I'm with these white people because I don't want to be a victim of violence. I don't want to be a victim of racial violence and discrimination. I will hold on to the little privilege I have. Even as a white woman who is still going to be a victim of the patriarchy, at least they're not a black woman though. And there was times during, racial violence in the South where there were all of these genocidal massacres, the genocides, right? Where white people were given this chance. White people who wanted to stand by black people who were being massacred were given a chance. Hey, don't protect them and you won't die either. And a lot of them said, I don't want to die. So they just, ran off. And then there were some others who say, no, I don't care if I die. I'm going to try to help these people. And sometimes they got killed. And then other times the white people were like, we're not really killing white people. So we'll let you slide while we go kill other black people. It's very interesting. Even though I know that's not exactly what happened with Mary. She gets bit, she turns to a vampire, her mind is now being controlled, and then she becomes more like a mole, someone who is easily invited back into the juke joint, I was going to say back into the cookout, and she destroys it from the inside out, because it is her attacking and killing Stack that sends everybody, that ends the party, and everybody is told to get out. So all of those black people leave what was a safe place and they go back out into the world where it is unsafe. There's nothing but violence and racial violence for them. And they go outside where they are all attacked and then turned into vampires. Because if they had never gone outside, like if Annie had gotten involved sooner, and it's not Annie's fault, I don't mean it by saying that, but if Annie had gotten involved sooner and she had picked up on the fact that something was demonic or supernatural about those people, I feel like she would have been the first person to say, nobody go outside, lock the doors, everyone stay inside. Because that's where I thought this movie was going. I thought that they were going to realize they were vampires, lock all the doors, and do their best to protect the group of black people from the racial violence, from the massacre that was going to happen if they left that building. And that was going to be their like final stand. But almost all of the people get sent outside, and they're all, most of them walking home, because let's be honest, who has money for a car? So a lot of them being attacked, being turned, and then attacking their own people, to make it so that by the time you get to the core group, they are grossly outnumbered. And it's their own people. You know what they say? It be your own people. It's their own people, people they were friends with, people that they loved, that they had all these relationships with, who were coming after them, you know, trying to kill them. I didn't expect it, and I was really happy that I saw something that I didn't expect, because I have really strong pattern recognition, which means that I predict movies real easily, which is why I don't like watching a lot of Hollywood movies. I'd rather watch something from another country where I can't tell where the story is going. But I like that I did not predict that that was what was going to happen, especially when you see everybody walking out at first and you're like, I mean, it's 3 against, I don't know, 30, 40 people. Maybe they will, I'm expecting to hear some screams, some chaos, some running around, and you don't get any of that. It's quiet, and there's a moment where you think, oh, these people must have actually went home. They must have let them go home because there was such a big group of them, and then attacked the stragglers. You know what I mean? But no, they attacked all of them, and they all came back at the climax. Yeah, so I thought that that was really, really good. I thought that them having the moment where he has all the infected, where he has all the black vampires now too, and they're all dancing and singing his Irish music, and him talking about how he wants what they have, like he wants the blues, the music that Sammy was playing. And if he is able to turn Sammy into a vampire, he will gain access to all of his memories as well as all of his skills, and be able to play the guitar the same way that Sammy was playing it and sing all the songs that they were singing. And this is that culture vulture shit where he felt that there was something beautiful about it, but rather than appreciating it for what it was, he wanted to take it for himself and take it from those black people. And that is the biggest problem when we talk about things like cultural appropriation. You don't want to share in it. You don't want to say, this is black and I appreciate it as black music. You want to say, I take this black music and I make it mine, and then I go to the white people and I act like it's something I created and came up with, and then I make all the money off of it, while black people are over there being told that theirs is devil music. I'm singing the exact same song and I'm being praised for my originality and creativity. And I think it was also interesting too, he acts as if by joining him, there's no more racism, because they all become vampires now. So they're all equal in being vampires, and there's no more racism. He's like, I did a good thing when I turned these white people into vampires, because they were Klan members and they were planning to come back and kill all of y'all. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to survive. You were never going to have this black generational wealth that you thought that you were building. They were planning to take it right back from you the next day. You know, instead of it being a juke joint, which is a place of black joy, they wanted to turn it into a slaughterhouse just as soon as after they got all that money from you. Because remember, the wealth comes from theft and exploitation. And so he's presenting it as like, hey, this is actually better for you. And in a weird way within the movie, it's better in the sense that these people are being given powers that would allow them to physically fight back against things like those Klan members. But I thought it was also interesting that the Klan members in the movie came back during the day. They didn't come at night. to attack while they were having the party. The Klan members came back during the day. So even though all those black people gained the powers of being vampires, they can't be out during the day. So they are completely unable to resist these lynchings that happen during the day. There's this weird idea when we teach history in America that all of these lynchings and slaughters and murders were happening in the dead of night. And there's a lot of stories where people were being taken at night and killed and all of that. But there's also a ton of situations where people were being killed in broad daylight. And I think that that was a really good moment when Delta Slim was telling Sammy about what happened to some of his people, where the guy had money that he had earned. It was his money. And he went to a train station thinking that he could get a train ticket and ride on a train. White people saw him, accosted him, found that he had money on him, and killed him and took the money, which is a very common thing that happened all over the country. But, especially when you're talking about the southern United States, a lot of the times when black people were being massacred, there was jealousy that they were building their own shit to the point where they may no longer be dependent on white people to survive. But then two, it was always a financial element. It was always a burn down the schools so they are not literate enough to take our jobs. Burn down the churches so they have nowhere to, have peace of mind. Burn down their homes so that they have to buy homes from us. Steal their clothes, steal the jewelry, steal the money in their pockets. Because there were centuries where white people were gaining their wealth literally from stealing it from other people. So even though slavery wasn't legal anymore, they still were stealing it from other people by killing them. Just all they had to do was say that they accosted a white woman, and boom, bam, now they get to kill you in broad daylight in a train station in front of everybody. And this happened at churches. This happened at schools. This happened outside of black businesses. It was something that happened all the time. And so where I would have thought the story could have gone, where it's, okay, all of these black people are vampires, and there's all this thing about like they have power now with their vampire strength, that if those Klansmen come back in the night to attack, I kept waiting on the Klansmen to attack at night. And even me, with my history degree, knowing that they don't have to come at night, they can kill you in broad daylight, I kept waiting for them to show up at night and then be attacked and killed by all the black vampires. And that's not what happened. By the time those Klansmen showed up in the middle of the day, the only person there was Smoke. The only person there to, I guess at this point, he's not really defending anything because everyone's dead, so get revenge, I guess, is Smoke. Just one man. And if he did not have the guns that he had to steal when he was out in Chicago, he would have been lynched too. Because there is not a world, not in this story, but also in the history of America, you don't earn enough money to buy guns to be able to physically resist these Klansmen with their guns. Why would they ever sell you guns to use against them, to use in resistance? He had to go and steal those guns to even have a fighting chance against these people. Because that is how you survive in a capitalistic society. You have to steal. You have to. And so I thought that it was really, really interesting that they did not go the route that I thought that they were going to go. Like, I was hoping to see Klans members get their throats ripped out. But then they would have, instead of doing that, they probably would have just bit them so that they joined the group. And then they would have been like forced to coexist the way Remmick was making it seem like they could coexist. And it's not to say that black and white people can't coexist, but it's the fact that there is no appreciation for what the black people in this story and in history are creating. It is I want to steal it for myself. I want your songs. I want your joy. I want your religion. I want your history. Not I want to share it with you. Not I'm willing to give you money and pay you what you're worth for your services, for your products. It's I want to take what's yours and make it mine and then use it to make myself better. That's why it was never a good deal. Even when um Stack and Mary originally were trying to make it seem like everything was going to be great. They just all had to become vampires together. At the first ending credit, one of the things that Stack said was the last time he was happiest was when he was with his brother, when he could see the sunrise. He doesn't get to see the sunrise anymore. He doesn't get to be black. He's in the 90s. He doesn't get to go outside and be black in these public spaces and be himself and exist and be visible. He has to go around at night under the cover of darkness. Another interesting thing that I was like, something was weird when I was watching this movie. I was like, something about the quality, the cinematography. I was like, something's weird. Like, I was like, is there a film or something over the thing? I was like, what was going on? And I found out later it's because they shot it on film, which makes sense instead of it being digital. Because my brain was looking for it to be 4K, but then it being shot the way it was made it feel so much older, like I was watching a movie that had been made in a long time ago. So I thought that that was really cool, and that was a good use of things, because how the darkness looks on film is so much creepier. Like, there's these scenes where people's, like, you can't fully see their eyes in the darkness. Like when Mary was out there talking to the vampires, like the darkness over their eyes was really, really creepy. Not being able to see someone's eyes is a huge thing in horror that is signaling to you that something is wrong with that character. And so I thought that was really good. I thought the actors, most of the actors, were really, really good in terms of Cornbread. I was seeing a video where he's like, they were talking about how he was from Mississippi and his grandparents were sharecroppers and things like that. I felt Cornbread as a good actor. I liked Sammy as an actor. I liked the Asian people as actors. I liked everybody as actors except Michael B. Jordan. I know y'all gonna be mad at me for that one, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't like when somebody becomes so famous of an actor that you cannot separate them from the character they're playing. So it's not to say that Michael B. Jordan himself is not a good actor. It's to say that this man who was born in California, who you've seen in tons of other movies and you've seen the way he speaks in real life, is now got some cotton in his mouth or something and is trying to do a very thick Mississippi accent. It just felt weird to me. As somebody who I have family in Mississippi, like I've been to Mississippi a lot of times, in the Delta, it just felt like someone from the North imitating what someone from the South sounds like, whereas everybody else sounded like they were more, more accurate. I feel like if before seeing one me, I want to put respect on her name. Hold on, one me, who was actually a British person, and I don't know why British black people are so good at playing American black people. But we can't do the reverse. It's weird. But like if I saw one me like speaking prior to it, I still would have felt like I didn't feel like she had like a super thick Mississippi accent though. She talked in a very polished way, and that was fine for her character. She was, you know, I feel like Michael B. Jordan was trying really, really hard to sound like a Mississippi black man. He was like puffing out his cheeks a little bit to try to get that drawl in there. And if you like Michael B. Jordan, I'm sure you had a great time looking at him and looking at him again and another person and his little sex scenes, which I don't really care for the sex scenes. I thought they were kind of weird, but that's because I'm asexual and I don't like that stuff anyway. But I just saw Michael B. Jordan doing a Mississippi accent instead of me seeing Smoke and Stack. There are a lot of actors that I don't like seeing in the movie. I don't like seeing The Rock. I don't like seeing Kevin Hart. I don't like seeing Ice Cube, because when they're in movies, they're playing themselves with just a different name. And I do feel like Michael B. Jordan is a good actor, but I just feel like watching him, knowing how he sounded in other movies and knowing how hard he was pushing that accent, It just took me out of for him. So while a lot of people was like, oh, Michael B. Jordan's movie or whatever, I don't think it was his movie. I really like Sammy's character. I really like Annie's character. I like Delta Slim. I like the Chows. I even liked Remmick, as a character. I thought that he was doing his part as he should. I thought he did a great job of being a white vampire, or as I occasionally call them, a chalk demon. Um, and I had a great time watching all of those things happen. I really, really loved the fact that they tell you at the beginning of the movie, and then it comes back around at the end of the movie, is this idea that blues music does not have to be demonic. It can be co-opted, it can be stolen, it can be twisted, and someone who is demonic can try to use it for evil, but it can also be used for joy. And they say that at the beginning. And having that scene at the beginning where Sammy comes in all bloodied and he has like the handle of the guitar and his dad is telling him to drop it, you think that this is going to be a movie showing the evils of this music. But then you watch the whole movie and then you come back around to the beginning of him coming in and him not wanting to let go of the guitar and instead taking that guitar and using it to make the Christian music as well, but keep using music as a way of resistance. That's what I think is a huge part of what I liked about this movie as well, from a symbolism perspective, is the fact that Black music is resistance. And yes, white people will copy it. I mean, the videos of white women dancing to Not Like Us on social media, ridiculous. They will strip it of all meaning and use it as fun because they have no way of connecting with that music or understanding that music. So they put it on like a costume. And other white people would be like, wow, so cool, so inventive, and then turn around and tell me that they don't like hip hop. They don't listen to that hip hop. They don't listen to that rap music. They exclusively avoid music that they see as Black without realizing that the majority of the music you listen to came from Black people and it was just stolen. There are so many songs from the 50s and the 60s that have a white version and a Black version. I've had these conversations with my friends before, especially the ones who like older music. There is a white version and a Black version because there was so many times where Black people were not able to license and control their own music. So it was stolen by a white group that gained more fame for doing the songs. And all the white people, listened to it because it was a white person singing it without any realization or recognition for the fact that, people like Elvis would go around Black people, listen to their music, and then do the same music and song, and everybody praised him for it. Well, there were some people who thought it was a little too sexual, but he's so famous. White people to this day are still going to Memphis to see his house. And in no other situation would white people from around the country and around the world go to a place like Memphis. They wouldn't go there. But that's how much they like Elvis. That's how much international fame he got. Meanwhile, the people who he took that music from, I don't even know their name. That's crazy. But yeah, I really love the symbolism of it. I really love the acting. I love the cinematography. I love the story direction. I love the fact that there's all these videos now where people are talking about books that you can go and read. They're like, if you like Sinners, here's a bunch of movies you can watch. Here's a bunch of books you can read. Here's some comic book series that you may not have known about before. Ryan Coogler is definitely giving me, I've read a lot of books and I've been able to take that and translate that into a story. I love the fact that the story has multiple elements and multiple layers of symbolism in it. I feel like a lot of movies that talk about Jim Crow South or slavery are very one note. They're trying to tell you one specific story and they just do that the whole time. And I don't believe that they capture the real complexity of Black identity, Black story, Black religion, Black resistance, Black joy, race relations in America. There's more than just white and Black people in this country. And the more we talk about the intersections between those various races and genders, the more we open up our mind to understanding those possibilities. Americans are so ignorant because our history is taught to us in such a stupid way that makes it seem so boring, like nothing ever happens. And there's so many stories where like it's just interesting. I love it, and I think that it did a really good job of doing the parallels to the things that we're going through today as well. Um, and it gives you a lot to talk about too. I love that movies that let people talk. There's a lot of movies where you watch it and then you leave and you're like, well, great movie, I liked it, and that's it. No, I like movies where you can actually have a whole debate with your friend about was Mary actually under Stack's influence and it was Stack who sent her out there, or was it Mary trying too hard to impress this man, so that's why she put herself in danger? Should Mary have been invited into the juke joint? What about the relationship with the Childs? How does the spirituality come into effect? Like, there's a lot of stories that can be told out of a movie like this. And I liked how they all came together and they were interwoven, because at the end of the day, blackness, black identity, black life, there's a bunch of different intersections there that make up the black community. It's not a monolith. They don't all think the same. They don't all act the same. They don't all have the same religion. They don't all have the same relationship with other races. So I love seeing that. And the best scene, nobody could tell me otherwise. The best scene was just when they were playing that music and the whole place lit up and you saw all of those different cultures across the generations. Was so beautiful. I love the sound mixing in that situation as well, because I love it when different cultures come together. I think that that's the best, and that is the integration that we need. That's the integration that is positive, that is loving. The Childs don't think they're better than the black people. The black people don't think the Childs are, beneath them in any way. That is that integration. And that's the complete opposite of what Remmick and his chalky friends were trying to do. But yeah, so I've been talking for an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you thought about Sinners. I want to know all of your thoughts. I want to know all your theories about why people did what they did. I want to know what you would have done in that situation, because I probably would have been one of the people who left the party early and got bit. I ain't even gonna hold you. I would have been one of the first vampires, because I love leaving a party early. I don't wait till the party actually officially ends. So I would have probably got caught by them before they even got to the juke joint and been somewhere out in the bushes waiting for my chance to jump. Like that, I ain't running from them. I'm not fighting off no vampire. I'll be hiding somewhere in a room hoping that the strong people take care of the situation for me, and then I can go home as soon as the sun come up. I ain't gonna lie to you. But yeah, let me know what you would do in that situation. If there's some things that you want to argue about with me in the comments, feel free. I love to hear all of it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye.